Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. I was very excited when Michelle had told me about the Tasty Talks a few weeks ago. And then when I found out Marilyn was going to be the first guest speaker, I thought, well, I'm in good company. And then when I heard that the beneficiary of today's lunch would be Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, I was like, okay, you can count me in. I don't know if you're aware of it, but CBS3 has been partnering with Alex's for over a decade. 11 years ago, we did the first documentary on Alex Scott and her family, Jay and Liz. And over the past few years, this year was our 11th telethon. This year we raised $6 million in one day for Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. And over the course of our 11-year partnership with them, we've raised $24 million for pediatric cancer research. So knowing the fact that we were able to make a difference and that you folks here today are making a difference made this a no-brainer for me. One of the nice things about CBS3 is the fact that we are very ingrained in the community. We have partnerships with many nonprofit groups. When you drive around Philadelphia tonight or at the Jersey Shore and you see the skyline is pink, that didn't just happen out of thin air. That's due to Joanne Calabria, our public relations director. 16 years ago, she started calling around to individual buildings and saying, we've got this idea. Will you turn your lights pink for the month of October? And as a result, the skyline in Philadelphia is pink, and actually she's worked with our New York City station, WCBS, to do the same thing there as well. So we have a long-term relationship with the folks at Komen. We do the Race for the Cure every Mother's Day. You may see us out there at the crack of dawn on the Art Museum steps. We do work with Ronald McDonald House. They're building a new extension up on Chestnut to help people whose children are here at CHOP seeking medical care and they may be away from home and can't afford hotels, so they house them there. We work with the Salvation Army at Christmas time for our toy drive as well. So years ago, when I was offered the opportunity to come at the station, I started looking into all the different community initiatives that the station was involved with, and I thought, okay, this is a place for me to be. As a matter of fact, the very first day that I moved here to Philadelphia, the movers had just dropped off my furniture at my temporary housing, and I went looking for Trader Joe's. There was nothing in their fridge. I'm like, okay, I gotta get to Trader Joe's. It was one of those dreary December days, you know, where it's like sleeting and stuff like that. And I walked outside, and I was at 18th and JFK trying to find out where Trader Joe's was, and I asked 3 different people how to get there. Well, they weren't the most friendly ambassadors to Philadelphia. Let me just put it to you that way. And at one point, I started getting panicked. I was on the corner of like 20th and Arch, and I started to hyperventilate. I thought, oh, what have I done? I've committed career suicide. I've come to this evil place. Because I will tell you, I came here from Columbus, Ohio. I had worked out there for one of the top stations in the country. And when I told the station I was leaving, they kept on saying, you don't want to go to that place. And I said, what place? And they're like, KYW. The ratings are in the toilet. It's built on an Indian burial ground. And it was true, I think, for all at that time. It was 15 years ago. But as I made the turn onto, I think it was 20th Street, I saw this amazing mural. And it really stopped me in my tracks. And I mean, vibrant colors. And I looked closer, and the name of the mural was Reach High and You Will Go Far. And I'm always a very big believer in signs, and I thought, someone's trying to tell me something. I can survive this city. I just have to get to Trader Joe's and then get home as quickly as I possibly can. And 15 years later, I'm still here. And fast forward, several weeks later, I volunteered for the Mural Arts program, and I was one of their first docents as part of their tour group. So I would do the volunteering on the trolleys for people that were either visiting. Can't imagine people surprised they get on the trolley and like, you're the TV guy. Yes, I am. Welcome aboard the trolley. So once again, it's all about making a difference. And the nice thing about the station is they really encourage us to get involved in the community. I work very closely with Consumer Credit Counseling Service to help people kind of figure out their finances and get their finances on track. I work with Carrie. Any of you have senior relatives or friends that you may have problems with getting them the resources they need, there's a Carrie hotline for those people that live in Philadelphia. It's an amazing senior organization that advocates for seniors both here in Pennsylvania and in Washington, D.C. I work with the William Way Center, the Attic Youth Center, and Mazzoni Health Centers. And right now I'm selling pies for Manna. If anyone would like to buy a pie, please go on to mannapies.org, select me as the seller because I'm in a battle for my life on those pies. Every year, everyone at work goes, those damn pies are going to kill you. I'm like, uh-huh. But Manna basically is an amazing operation because what it does is it provides nutritious meals to people that are facing life-threatening illnesses, cancer, HIV, AIDS, you know, you name the fact, and they're actually expanding where they're actually going to be providing the Meals on Wheels, if you will, for the entire state of Pennsylvania. Because what they have found is that if you provide someone with a nutritious meal, more likely they're going to get off of some of the medications they're on. People are dropping medications because they now have well-balanced diets, and the insurance companies are paying attention because they're like, wait a minute, if we help fund your operation, it's cheaper than paying for pills. So, you know, those are some of the things that I've been involved in here since moving to Philadelphia. A lot of people think I'm from Philly. Maybe it's the accent, I don't know. But I'm actually from New York City. Born in Brooklyn. Anybody from Brooklyn here? My people? Oh, thank goodness. Okay, I knew there's always one in the crowd. Born in Brooklyn, raised on Staten Island. My dad... Oh, Staten Island, the Rock. You got off the rock for that. Very good. My father was a New York City police lieutenant, so from a very early age, my brother and I learned the difference of right and wrong, and that our actions have consequences. He was a former Marine too, so you know how that house was run. My mom worked for a brokerage firm, and she taught my brother and I the value of money. You have to work hard to earn it. You should spend it wisely, that you should save some for a rainy day, but also that you have an obligation to share it with those in need. So from a very young age, I had a pretty good moral compass. Then you add the nuns and the priests and the lay teachers from Catholic elementary school, high school, and college. Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I have a twitch because I think I see a racer coming by. Sister Patrick. But as the years went on, it's like I often look back at the experiences when I was a child and the lessons that they taught me in the decisions that I've made in my career. I was the odd one in the neighborhood. You know, the kids would be playing stickball and kick the can down the street, and I'd be out there occasionally, but more often than none, I was in the house watching the news. The 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7:30. My father used to say, there's something the matter with that one. And I was an odd one. They would be eating in the kitchen, and I'd be eating in the dining room. I thought, this is the way civilized people are supposed to act, but not the rest of them. But the interesting thing was my parents, while they were very encouraging, they couldn't necessarily put me in touch with people that could help a television career. From the time I was 8 years old, I said, this is what I'm going to do. So they'd be, oh, that's nice, honey. That's good. I could have walked in and said I want to be an astronaut, and they would have had the same reaction. They were, okay, encouraging, but they didn't know any TV reporters or anchors. They knew doctors. They knew firemen, police officers, accountants. Otherwise, I was on my own. But as I said earlier, I believe in signs, and I also believe that we're all surrounded by guardian angels. And for some reason, I was able to stumble through the early part of my life, and just good things kept on happening. I applied to one college, Seton Hall University, and I got in. I didn't know you were supposed to apply to more than one. I thought, that's where I want to go. They have to accept me. When I was in my last semester of college, I finished early. I finished in 3 years. I applied for one internship. I got the internship, Channel 9 WOR in New York, New Jersey market, North Jersey. The end of the internship, there was one job available. There were 7 of us applying. I'm like, okay, I'll apply for the job. I got the job. It was like one thing after the next. And what I found was people are always willing to give you a helping hand if they feel that you're also invested in their operation. When I was starting out my TV career, and those of you that watch Channel 3 on the morning between 4:30 and 7 each day on CBS3 Eyewitness News, I often refer to a lot of airline stories and stuff because I was working in television the same time I worked for an airline. I was a flight attendant for, remember People Express, where we used to take the money from you on the plane? Yeah, that's another thing with flashbacks, which then turned into Continental, but I was a flight attendant and worked in TV at the same time. I'd literally get off the plane at Newark Airport, drag my luggage behind me into the newsroom, go change in a makeup room, and then go out and work a double shift, then go to the airport and fly out at night. One year, in 1991, I worked 362 days. I had 3 days off that year. But that's what I needed to do. I needed to do that in order to move forward in my career. So I worked at Channel 9 for 6 years, working my way up the rungs. Went to NBC in New York, WNBC, which is their flagship station. Then to CNBC, NBC's business channel, where I became a consumer investigative producer. So I did the off-air stuff for a little while, and I was very fortunate that someone got fired one day. He was the only male reporter on the staff. We had an all-female crew except for this one guy. And it ended up, I could hear screaming in a manager's office, and the next thing I know, he comes out of the office, slams the door, and starts yelling that his attorney is going to be calling the manager. And then the boss comes out and starts yelling, well, you give him my number. I thought, oh, this isn't good. And he looks down at me, he said, didn't you want to be a reporter? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, you're the new reporter on the show. And I went, oh, do I get a raise? He goes, don't push me. I was like, okay. The interesting thing was I was the only guy on the show, and I was named the Good Housekeeping reporter. So I was like, sure, I can test toaster ovens, I don't care. But the interesting thing about it was those were the stories that the other NBC stations around the country wanted to air. So you could do a major investigative piece, but they didn't care about that. They wanted the toaster ovens, or which is the best cookie mix. And I was like whipping up cookies and biscuits, whatever the heck you wanted. Stayed at CNBC for a few years. The show, the dynamics of the network were changing. They decided to get rid of the show, and I had advance notice. A little birdie told me, and I thought, I got to get out of here before they whack us all. And I got a job down in North Carolina, Greensboro, High Point, North Carolina television market, which is like living in Mayberry. The first weekend that I was there, I sat there and I cried in my apartment. Now, it was the weekend Princess Diana had passed away, so I wasn't sure if I was crying over her or the fact that I now lived in North Carolina. I didn't know which one it was. Spent 3 years there, then moved to Columbus, Ohio. Anybody from Ohio? Go Bucks. Yeah, it's a crazy sports town. OSU. One time I was on the air, it was the weekend of the OSU-Michigan game. And I inadvertently wore a blue blazer with a gold tie. I come out of the studio and the phones are ringing off the hook. I'm like, ooh, wonder what's happening in the newsroom. My boss comes out, are you an idiot? And I said, I don't believe so. Why are you asking me this question? He said, look at what you're wearing. And I'm thinking, I spilled something on me. And he said, you're wearing Michigan colors. And I said, what's Michigan colors? I don't know what you're talking about. They made me go back on the 6 o'clock news and cut the tie on air, live on television. That's obsessed, they are crazy people. And then 15 years ago, I got the call to join CBS3 here in Philadelphia. First as their consumer reporter, I started the 3 on Your Side consumer unit. And over the years, we've helped thousands of viewers. Every single person that's called or written the station asking for consumer help, we don't necessarily are able to help them all solve their problems, but we send them to the resources they need and things like that. And then 2 years ago, I was brought into the office. It was right before the Pope was coming to town, and I said, well, what's my assignment for the Pope? I'm assuming I'm going to do something on like merchandise or souvenirs or something. And they said, well, you're going to be anchoring the coverage. And I'm like, excuse me? I said, I'm not an anchor. I said, I have no filter. There's big words, names. I don't do that. That's all right. You'll be with Pat Shiraki. Well, Pat Shiraki is basically the vice Pope. So I said, okay. Sister Pat and I are going to be anchoring this for how long? 5 hours, 2 days live. And I thought, okay, this is good. I don't take medication, but I was seriously thinking of getting a prescription at that point. I remember right before we started the first show on Saturday morning, Pat grabbed my hand and she said, this will be an amazing ride. I get emotional because she meant it. About an hour into the broadcast, Pope landed, gets in his Pope-mobile. He's going, and I'm just reading my notes that I had written and just trying to keep it. And all of a sudden he gets out of the Pope-mobile and goes to some disabled children and starts blessing. And I start crying on television. And I'm not talking weepy, I'm talking sobbing. And then Pat Shiraki starts sobbing. And we're on live TV going, someone needs to give us a box of tissues, please! And I remember thinking, well, at least they won't assign me to anchor ever again. I'll get out of this thing. Because it's very hot out here right now, and the dust was like getting in my hair. 2 days later, I go back to the station, and the boss calls me in the office, and before he even said something, I said, look, I know. I said, I'm sorry, I was crying on TV. I said, but I'm an emotional sponge. I told you shouldn't have given me this opportunity. I said, and it's not a big deal. I said, I'm glad I could fill in, And at the time, the morning anchor job was open. Everyone in the station had applied for it except for me, and we had hundreds of audition tapes from all over the country. And he looked at me, he goes, it's all right. I want you to be our new morning anchor. And I looked at him and said, I don't understand here. And he points at a big stack of emails, and he said, the viewers will accept you as an anchor. So, that's why I always tell you, cry and you'll get a promotion. So now, rather than me rambling on, I'd like to, thank you very much. If only Sister Pat was here. She's in Italy. She has a very rough time right now since she retired, or semi-retired. But enough about me, talking about me. A lot of times when I come to presentations like this, whatever I say or have planned, you folks have questions of your own. So let's hear them. What do you want? I will start off. 3 questions. Number 1, I get up at 1:30 in the morning. I'm at work at 2:30 in the morning. Everyone, that's number 1. What time do I go to bed? I go to bed at 5 p.m. I am like living in a retirement community. No one just brings me applesauce and a pill that I go to bed at 5 o'clock. Number 2, we do our own hair and makeup. There are no people there. I don't know where they are, but they're not at our station. And we pay for our own clothes. So if you don't like what our clothes look like, please keep it to yourself, because we really don't care. We're on a budget. So anyway, questions from anyone about the station, about the people I work with?
You said you were a consumer reporter before. Any interesting stories from your consumer reporting days?
We did, thousands of stories over the years. I think the nice part about it was when we were able to get back significant amounts of cash. One of the first stories that I did here in Philadelphia, 4 homeowners were ripped off by a contractor it was a bathroom and kitchen remodeler. He would rip out a kitchen and then go to the next person, take the money, rip out there, but never would do the actual work. It was just the demo work. And he took, a huge amount of money. It was $43,000. So I kept on calling. I was trying to track him down. And finally, I had left a business card because we'd been staking out his house, and his attorney calls me. And he said, you're harassing my client. I said, look. I said, I'm going to put this story on TV. I said, and it's an election year. It was Montgomery County. I said, the DA's running for re-election. They like to be on TV. I said, your client's going to jail. I said, I'll give you 7 days, full restitution. 7 days later, I had a FedEx packet with 4 cashier's checks, full amount of money. Now, we still did the story. I didn't say I wasn't going to do the story. But we did the story, and we said that the contractor had returned the money. But that was something that these people had gone to the police. They weren't able to do anything because he had done some of the work, and then it becomes civil as the whole. So it was when we did things like that or major investigations. I will say that I think I'm the only consumer reporter in the country that has never been told by a TV station not to go after a story. We went after years ago, we went after a particular car maker, because I don't know if there are any car dealers here, so I'm not going to say which one. But there was an issue with cars going, these particular model vehicles going into reverse. You'd put them in park and it would go into reverse. And this woman calls me one day and she says, my vehicle ran me over. I said, excuse me? She says, it ran me over in front of Blockbuster. She got out, her baby's in the back seat in the car seat. She puts the car in park, just to drop it through the little slot. She turns around, the car is moving. She tries to get into the vehicle and it knocks her over. The door knocks her over and the vehicle, an SUV, drives over her. She had the tire marks. Not one broken bone. She had a guardian angel looking over. And we got the videotape showing the car from the security camera of the store. So I reached out to the manufacturer and I said, there's something going on here. Well, in most states, you can't leave a car in park with the keys on and the ignitions. They said, well, she violated state law. And I said, well, there's something the matter here. And I started digging into it, and we found out 4 people had already been killed because of this. So I worked for 3 months on this major investigative piece, and I reached out to the manufacturer finally the day before the story was going to air, and I told them what we had, and they said, if you air this story, we're going to own your TV station. I went, oh, okay, thank you. So I hung up the phone, I went into my boss, and I presented everything, and we'd already gone through legal review on this story, and he said, well, are you sure? And I said, I'm 99.9% sure. I said, no one's 100% perfect. I said, but I've covered everything. I said, I don't know what to tell you here. And he said, okay, we're going to go with it. That night, I got a little sick in the bathroom. Before I went out on set, brushed my teeth, I was like, okay, here we go. And the anchor looked at me and she goes, you're going to be all right? I said, well, it's either I have a job today and I have a job tomorrow, or I'm out of work and they own the station. We'll see what happens. Aired the story. The next morning, 800,000 vehicles were recalled by that manufacturer for the same reason I did the story at 11 o'clock at night. So, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here today. I hope you enjoy your lunch, and thank you for supporting Alice's Living Foundation. Now we'll hand the microphone back to Michelle.
Okay.